Nobody really has a clear take on what's happened in Afghanistan, what's happened since, and the mainstream media doesn't even cover it. So I am lucky enough to have Duke on today from Operation North Star, who is actually doing something about Afghanistan, trying to help the people that are still stuck there get out and keep it in the news. So thank you for joining me so much, Duke. I'm so excited to have you here because I think what happened in Afghanistan is the biggest embarrassment of our military and our country ever, but I also think that it was by design. And I am very nervous about the Afghanis that have come here and the people that are stuck left behind. So please fill us in.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. So I spent 13 years in the Army as a recon platoon sergeant, and I had been peacefully living my life in corporate America until I got a call one day, a desperate call of some of my military friends trying to get an interpreter out of Afghanistan as things were going sideways. So back then, I never would have thought that a year later, I'd still be here and still doing the exact same thing. Especially doing this as a volunteer and not having a paycheck for a year. I mean, we're literally trying to solve an Uncle Sam-sized problem with the personal checking accounts of our veterans, and to great moral injury to try to right this wrong that should have never happened in the first place. You know, the entire withdrawal to many of us continues to be a mystery. Many of us, who were on the ground when this happened didn't think it was really going to happen. They said, well, we're going to get on the planes. And they're like, I don't know. There's no way. There's no way we're leaving like this. And here we are. And it did happen. You know, there's groups in the Pentagon. That's all they do is plan, right? The military plan. There's 3-ring binders on top of 3-ring binders about how to properly draw down troops and do withdrawals. And for whatever reason, all of that was just thrown into the wind. They said, pack it up and leave. And in the process, they left $90 billion of weapons and materials and technology that are now being used to hunt our Afghan allies that fought with us for 20 plus years. So our organization, Operation North Star, which is part of the Moral Compass Federation. So there's 20 groups now that have banded together to try to solve this problem.
Oh, wow.
And the U.S. Department of State right now is still only getting 1 plane a month out of people out of Afghanistan. And to be honest, they're not even the people that we're trying to get out. Our groups are primarily focused on getting out our former Afghan Special Forces allies and their families.
Right.
And under Moral Compass, we've got about 35,000 people on our books that we're trying to get out. And
oh my God, wow.
We can't move them. So yeah, and these aren't single male fighters. Okay. I think there's a big misconception out there. The people that we're trying to get out are families. These are Afghan Special Forces allies, even groups like the NMRG, and we've got other orgs like Team 11 who are taking care of them. Those are the guys that walked in front of our Special Forces ODA teams with minesweepers, often at the cost of their lives and limbs. And we've got about 300 of those guys. And we can't get them out because the Department of State restrictions are so severe that we can't move them. So Afghanistan for a year now is essentially a prison state. We can't get people across the borders, and our people are such high risk. We can't even send them to the passport office to get passports.
Right.
Because if we do, they're immediately going to get unalived. And that has happened many a times.
Oh my God.
So this has definitely been an exercise in leading through adversity, again, a year into this. And it is an incredible heavy lift. So on a day-to-day basis, here's what we have to deal with. We've got thousands of allies that we have to house in safe houses underneath the Taliban who can control everything and do grid searches on the regular. So we have to put them in housing. We have to feed these people because they can't go down to the local market and get their food because they will get killed. We have to provide them with all their electricities, their utilities. We have to provide them with emergency medical services. I mean, just the amount of babies that are being born every day is crazy. And, you don't want to be having a baby in a hut, right? So we've got to sneak in doctors and sneak them everywhere. And then we've got people with gunshot wounds or people who have been captured and tortured and been smashed up with sledgehammers and thrown off of buildings. So we've got to get them emergency medical care. And then we got to transport people around. We've got to get their passports, their documents. We've got to raise all of our own money because the government's not funding anything. So we've got to go out and raise millions of dollars to fund all of this. we've got to send people like myself and other folks as delegations to third-party countries to beg them to try to take the American allies, right? So this has just been an insane and crazy heavy lift with no help. But I will say this, the way that the veteran community has came together is really a business case of business cases. The efficiency in which, and I think maybe it's probably because, excuse me, like 90% of the people in our org are current former special forces people. So we have a different mindset, a different different level of efficiency and commitment to the mission, right? So we're used to operating in kind of like austere environments because none of us are in country. We're all doing this from home offices. And I mean, it's crazy. And I think that we're still doing this a year later is insane.
Yeah, well, what's crazy, I'm looking at it right now. So the Biden regime, and I call them the Biden regime because it's just all of Obama's people back in there that have wreaked havoc on the whole planet the entire time. But it appears that they're still sending a ton of money to the Taliban. I'm seeing like $308 million, which, you know, isn't that much for them since they're sending 58 billion to Ukraine. But then we're seeing that they want to unlock the frozen assets from Afghanistan as well. And they're negotiating on that level. So they are spending money on Afghanistan, but they're not spending money helping you guys or getting people out that helped us. They're spending money funding the Taliban.
Yeah, we haven't received any governmental money. We have actually only had one official meeting where, and this was back in the early days when the Pentagon was interested in developing a private public relationship. That was
I know all about those.
Yeah, there's there's a lot of organizations doing this, but I mean, we're significantly underfunded and actually not funded at all.
Where's the money going that they're sending to they're sending it to the Taliban. What is that money going to?
I couldn't tell you. I'm not operating on that side, but I know it's not going to anything good.
It's not going to help America, American citizens, American interest, or the interest and the people who helped us.
And, you know, if you pull the lens back, this is an actual national security issue, right? So one can make a good argument that what happened in Afghanistan with the hasty withdrawal was such a clear sign of weakness. Maybe that's why Putin decided to go into Ukraine, or why China is acting up with Taiwan, or what's going on in Iran or North Korea. I mean, the weakness when America doesn't lead from the front creates an issue. Other national security issues is obviously we left $90 billion of weapons and tech that are not only, again, being used to kill our allies, but maybe being sold on the open market. Why we left Bagram and all the technology and stuff that was there is, again, beyond any reason that any of us can come up with. And now we have allies, special forces from the Afghan side, who are either A, being tortured and killed, or B, having to move over to the Taliban side now, or under threat of being tortured and killed. And we have no eyes and ears inside of Afghanistan. I mean, this is a complete failure and the highest of risks when it comes to anything, even national security related. And the fact that we're going to send them money for whatever reason is just beyond all of us.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I read yesterday when I was looking up and preparing for this, that actually Afghanistan now is the largest supplier of weapons all over the world, because they now have our supply, $80 billion of weapons, but also Bagram, they first of all, a couple of days before it appears, they released all the prisoners from Bagram, the worst of the worst from ISIS and the Taliban and all of that, and then left Bagram completely. Isn't Bagram really close to China? Shouldn't the priority have been to
China actually took over Bagram. They made a deal with them for the power grid, and they basically handed it over. So I'm told. I mean, I haven't.
No, I mean, it makes sense because this is what we're dealing with. But how scary! Now, what we're all told is that they brought 40,000 unvetted Afghanis here, the Biden regime, and those weren't the guys that helped us. How did they vet and pick? How'd they pick the people that they brought here, if not? Crazy.
In the early days and what happened at HKIA, I mean, it was absolute chaos. And I will say this, I think the effort was good intentioned. I just, again, in the hastiness of all of this, they clearly didn't think anything out, because they were basically letting anybody on the planes that could get on the planes, and then they took off. There was no real rhyme or reason to who was getting on those planes. And the net effect of that is twofold. So because there has been, in fact, some bad actors that made it out of the country,
Right.
now that has negatively affected us trying to get our good guys out.
Right. I mean, it's totally crazy. And what I keep hearing, and I got some information about, is that a bunch of terrorists did come here through that program, and that they have been placed all over the country at our taxpayer dime. And yet they're still not helping the people that you're helping. Have you guys asked or tried to, go to the government and say, or any of these organizations and say,
yes.
We need your help?
Yes, obviously. So there's another group that works with us and works directly with the Biden administration called Afghan EVAC. They have regular calls with Secretary Blinken in Austin and communicate directly with them. And, everybody in those organizations is asking for help the same way that we are. We're a little bit more ANASOC oriented on the Afghan special operations end.
Right.
So we don't have the biggest voice in that group, but yeah, the ask has definitely been made at least, 1,000+ times.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they're helping big groups or small groups, but they certainly are helping the Taliban.
They're getting out one plane a month, and to be clear, the only way that this is going to get solved is with us working with the administration that's in power. This has to be a political solution, or we have to continue our efforts and delegations to third-party countries and beg,
Right.
the Mexicans, the Canadians, whoever, to take at least a chunk of our Afghan allies.
Yeah. Now, how does in this big picture, it does appear to me, I'm not a fan of NATO. I do not believe that they are for the good of our country or any other country, but everyone can have their own opinion. But how does the current situation with both tensions with Russia and China, and now I hear that they're also now instigating and did a simulation of taking down Kim Jong-un in North Korea in the middle of all of this. How does the rest of the geopolitical situation affect what is going on in Afghanistan?
Well, again, it divides the money for sure. I mean, if you take a look at like what happened in Ukraine, as soon as Ukraine kicked off, our money pipe shut off.
Right.
Instantly. I mean, it was like the day of, it just shut off.
Couldn't they just give you 1 billion of the 50 billion to get the people out in Afghanistan that worked for us?
We don't even need that much, to be honest.
I know.
We could fund it ourselves through donations if we could just get the visas.
Oh, and that's another problem.
We can't get visas. Nobody's giving us visas. I mean, we could try to find, even if we had the money, we can't move people because we're going to get hit. We can only move people legally, is what I'm trying.
And you're dealing with a rogue government that, if they're government at all, that doesn't care.
Buckle your seatbelt, because I'm going to talk a little bit about how Ukraine plays into Afghanistan.
Do it.
When the situation in Ukraine happened, they came out with this program called Uniting for Ukraine. Basically, it was, the fast track of, look, if you're a Ukrainian and you want to come to America, you apply for Uniting for Ukraine, and you're in America within 4 hours. And I led a delegation down to Mexico where they had a Ukrainian camp down there, and we moved 27,000 Ukrainians across the border.
Wow.
Yeah, and the
so that just proves that whatever's going on with the people left in Afghanistan is on purpose.
Well, they processed their humanitarian paroles in 2 to 4 hours, and they didn't want it to take any longer because they said it would be cruel. Yet our Afghan allies are being hunted and brutally murdered, smashed to pieces with sledgehammers and thrown off buildings and lit on fire and drowned, buried alive. Pregnant women and children being stabbed and beheaded. I mean,
all the progress that they claim to make for women's rights has been completely taken away, if that was even working.
So any of these excuses about process or personnel in the Department of State, we're having a hard time swallowing that, because we've seen what happened with Uniting for Ukraine Act. I mean, the blueprint is there. Just change the name. Uniting for Afghanistan. Just move our 35,000 allies. Look, 35,000 people. is not that big of a number in the grand scheme of things. We moved 27,000 Ukrainians across the border. And I will say, I witnessed this firsthand, is that there was some Ukrainians who lived in Australia who were vacationing in Mexico, and they heard about this program and they hopped in line, and now they're in America.
Well, wouldn't you?
I mean, they haven't been in Ukraine for 10 years.
This is so crazy because to me, it's because they are talking about, because they seized, I guess, or claim to have seized, I'm not sure, all of this Afghan money. But now the Biden regime, Blinken, of course, is talking about releasing this money to them. It should be a condition. Oh, that's the thing. This could all, and they're giving Taliban money, they're admitting it. So why isn't it a condition of that they do let these people out and process them? That's, to me, what's bothering me. Every time in history, it appears, or any history I've studied, the US government, they make negotiations, and part of those negotiations include, we'll give you X, but you have to do Y. And this would be, to me, what they would want to be doing in that sense. And they're not doing that.
We flat out shouldn't have left. And that's just my personal opinion. That's not the opinion of North Star or Moral Compass, but we shouldn't have drawn down. We should have kept Bagram. We should have kept ODA teams in there, special forces teams, and we should have remained, operational.
Right. I had on Kash Patel and a couple other people that were involved. And I got to tell you, the plan that they had was actually very different. And they would have gotten out most of these people before they even started the drawdown of the actual military protecting Bagram, and never would have left Bagram anyway, because that's our base and we built it and it's strategic for China. But it just,
go ahead. Not a plan. What happened here is not a plan. Like, clearly there is no.
What happened? I mean, what do you think happened? It was like overnight, and we're watching it on TV, and it just seemed like a movie. It really did not seem real. What do you think the impetus was?
Guys all the time who were there, they were actually on the ground. They're like, they didn't believe it until they were ordered onto planes. They're like, there's no way we're leaving. Like, no, this isn't happening. A lot of our guys didn't even pack their bags because they said there's just no way we're.
What did those guys think, really, what the call was? What was the impetus to that kind of call?
We don't know. We don't know. And I can tell you also firsthand is that because of our political liaisons through the organizations that I'm a part of, we wrote some questions for the closed door hearings for both Blinken and Austin. And, political sidestepping, half truths, no answers. They're the most disappointing thing here is that we need to have hearings. God willing, we take the House and the Senate.
That's the only way. And
then we can have some hearings and get some accountability here. A lot of us are very surprised that the senior officers in the military have been so quiet about this.
I think everyone in America is very surprised that I feel like the current regime is complicit in what's going on.
I don't think they're using any drone.
You don't think they're using our equipment?
No, they've got we call it the Afghan news wire. So, I mean, word in Afghanistan about anything spreads like wildfire. And
they're not using our weapons, you don't think?
They're using weapons, but they're not they don't have like drone technology, at least not that I'm aware of.
Or they don't know how to use it, probably, because we're sending all this stuff to Ukraine and they have no idea how to use it, apparently, except for the ones that were there training them.
Right.
But
they're doing other things, like they do grid searches where they go house to house. They make everybody register in whatever apartment buildings they are. Anytime that somebody moves into a new place, they find out who they are. So I mean, operating in that kind of environment and being as successful as we have been is nothing short of amazing, and it's literally movie worthy. Some of the stuff that we've done. I mean, it's so scary.
I don't know how you sleep. You probably don't. I have to also ask you this. So last week, out of nowhere, Blinken, Biden, they announced that they take out the head of bin Laden, they say is number 2, al-Zawahiri, on a balcony in a upscale neighborhood in Afghanistan out of nowhere. But people don't know that Blinken and Sullivan met with these people recently. What is the reasoning for doing this right now? Bringing Afghanistan back into the forefront? Is it to look like some kind of heroes?
Again, this would have to be me just taking a wild guess about.
Right, I know, you're speculating, I get it.
Yeah, because I'm in the.
You're not on their team, I understand.
Yeah, I'm not privy to any of it, but from the outside looking in, it's first of all, having people on the ground. We've got conflicting reports about who and what was in that building and what happened. So we're not even completely sure from our actual assets on the actual ground. If they say it happened, I guess I'll take them at their word. Right. It does seem rather convenient, though. I think sometimes, when you need to increase some poll numbers and pop out a war trophy, right?
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
That's a way to do it.
Yeah, it's funny. I was sent an article by a guy who was USA, I think Special Forces, but funding by USAID. They used to live in that house. He said like a fraternity house during I think he was saying 8-10 years ago that they were all there working in Afghanistan, Special Forces, and they lived in that same exact house and it was funded by the US government. So very strange stuff going on in Afghanistan, but we really need to help those people. I feel so sorry for them. It sounds like hell on, I mean, worse than hell on earth. And these are families. These aren't just soldiers.
I wish I had time to elevate myself up to the policy level and get more injected into that stuff, especially, when and if the hearings come along. But right now it's in the trenches and trying to save lives on a daily basis. And that's, we need funding. If anybody's listening, please go to operationnorthstar.com and donate everything you got, because it's going to literally saving lives. None of us are taking salaries. It goes right into housing, goes into food, goes into medical. It's just saving our allies.
Well, you're literally running a witness protection program in the Wild West of Afghanistan for people that help the American citizens and the American military for now multiple decades. And they were left behind. They were totally left behind. Now, how many Americans are left there?
We're trying to figure
I know.
that out.
Just estimate. There are Americans still stuck there, right?
So we just had a meeting on this a couple of days ago, and the best that we could come up with across our organizations, where there's probably about 200, but that's a combination of American citizens, LPRs, family members of American citizens. Wow. There's about 200 of them.
Well, those alone should have been removed. But your point is excellent and really important. What you did for Ukraine firsthand, you actually were involved in, and how easy it would be if our government did that. I honestly believe they're going to release money and continue to fund the Taliban, and they should be making a deal. That part of that is, but listen, like you said, we got to get 2022 law and order reinstalled. A military that's working for the people, by the people, and the Constitution, Bill of Rights, God, and all of that has to come back to the forefront. Then we have actual hearings where
have consequences, and hopefully through the election process, we can put people with good moral integrity in there who care about these things and realize what a risk of national security this is. And plus, this isn't what America is. This isn't what we should be doing.
I know it's hard because I read a lot of foreign papers. I keep trying to tell people that the propaganda media and this very corrupt, I believe, globalist controlled regime, the rest of the world is looking at America with very bad. It's not good that the rest of the world is looking at America as bullies and infiltrators and people that don't keep agreements, don't keep treaties. What has happened in 18 months to our reputation on the planet, I cannot express to people enough. Do you feel that way too? Because it does seem, forget China and Russia, I'm talking about the rest of the world looking at America right now, especially our behavior in Afghanistan.
If I was a Ukrainian Special Forces soldier right now, I'd be going,
what is this about?
Are they going to turn tail one day and feed me to the wolves?
That's what I think is going to happen. I brought up what we brought up earlier. Zelensky's got time to do apparently photo shoots and stuff. But if you look at that picture of his wife, she certainly looks captured. And I said, maybe she knows at the end of the day, if you look at history, somebody like him that has been so in everyone's faces, telling everyone they deserve this money, and that over and over, no matter how much is given, doesn't end well for them. But we'll see what happens. But that's amazing to me that the government facilitated a removal of Ukrainian citizens, like you said, pretty seamlessly with it's about saving lives. And yet we have all these people that really were fighting for us in
There's
Afghanistan.
some other irony here is the day they announced Uniting for Ukraine, that entire visa program, which is a 2-year visa access to the country and a work visa into the US.
Oh, wow.
They
That's great.
denied 95% of all Afghan HP requests, humanitarian parole requests. So, I mean, what clearer message do you need about priorities right there?
Yeah, and it's sad because the other side of that is, why are they picking and choosing whose lives matter? It should be all of them. But anyway,
unfortunately, we have to do that every day, as we have to play God.
Oh, I know, that's got to be so. I could
unfortunate thing that we literally have to pick who we feed, who we don't feed, who we don't house. And again, it comes back to the moral injury that is being inflicted upon our veterans who have to make these decisions. This isn't our job.
No, I know. And I mean, look, people went on to like you and other people in your group, you guys went on to corporate jobs or post-military jobs. And now, you're doing what you did on the battlefield, not leaving anyone behind. And unfortunately, our military upper brass, at least the people working with the Biden regime, they seem to prioritize wokeness and the Green New Deal and not protecting our country, because this is about protecting our country. And they seem to be empowering, at least financially, the Taliban. So what is again, let's just go over. Everyone, please help out. You have to understand, these people, again and again, we are realizing that no one's coming to save us. We, the people, are going to have to save ourselves. We're going to have to be out there. People ask me everywhere I go, I get emails, how can I help? What can I do? Well, this is one great way to help and also to contribute to turning our country around, because leaving these people behind and these men giving up their lives and their livelihoods to facilitate something that's a 24/7 job is being done by donations and the help of the American people. But the American people have to realize it's not just us or them. It's literally a international situation, and you should be on the front lines as we are. So please tell my audience where to go. We'll put all the links below, but again, just tell them where to go and how they can help and what they are doing by helping you.
So if you want to help us financially with the safe houses and the food and the medical emergency care and those types of operations that we're running, go to operationnorthstar.com. Other than that, make sure you vote.
Yeah.
Make sure that you ask your political representatives to, do the same thing they did for Ukraine. Take the Uniting for Ukraine Act and make it Uniting for Afghanistan, in particular to our Afghan allies, and get them the hell out of there.
It's so amazing to me what's going on. I hate to say it, but it's more than we think. Something else is going on with that Afghan withdrawal and everything else. But you know what? I believe God wins here, and God will prevail in the end. But we are dealing with some real evil, I think, on this planet. And you are one bright light that is trying to turn that around and expose it and save human lives. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your service. I cannot believe that you have given up a year of your life. And certainly it should have been over by now. And you're still fighting every day for these people that are in imminent danger, in the worst kind. And unfortunately, the government in place right now, I believe, is complicit in what's happening to them. So thank you so much, Duke. You're a hero to me, and I'm sure to my audience now. So please, everyone, support them. These are really, really, really good people doing the work that we wish more people were doing. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for giving a voice to those who are voiceless.
Believe me, it is my pleasure. And please come back and update us, because, I understand what you guys did. And I know you thought that at first. We're up to the year anniversary. When is the exact date?
Well, the bombing happened on the 26th, where we lost the 13 Marines at HKIA at Abbey Gate.
Oh, my God. So it's a year. I know right away. I know from Laura and reporting that you jumped in. You said, this is more important. I'm going to go help get these people out that helped us. And it's a year later. Unbelievable. Thank you so much, Duke. Please keep me updated. Come back anytime. And everyone, please go to the website. It's below.